Yo, what's up guys? So today I'm going to be working on actually moving the pieces in my chess game. So just to get one thing out of the way, what I ended up doing is in this area here when I was appending the blank row, instead of creating a blank row and just adding the blank row to the board list 4 times, I added just spaces to the row or to the board list 4 times. And this is because it was kind of acting weird when I was testing things out. Like some things started to duplicate because I think that once I added it to that blank row, it affected all the other rows or something. I mean, if someone better at coding Python might have the answer to why that happens. But let's get started. So first thing I want to do is I want to create a move function. First things first, what I want to be able to do is I want to write in my coordinates. And how the coordinates work is that there's the columns are ranked in letters, or columns are letters, and the rows or ranks are numbers. So I want to create a dictionary to translate letters into numbers so that I don't have a bunch of if-then statements. Okay, so now I have the start of my function here. So what this is going to do is you have to put in the board, obviously, and then you have to put the player in. So, which side of pieces you want to move, white or black, right? So we have our dictionary here, and obviously it's 0 because lists don't start with 1, they start with 0. So whenever you plug in a letter into the letter list, it will output a number. And then over here, I just have if the player is equal to W, then your move input is equal to white. So that's just more for better visual stuff. So let's figure out what we need to do. Well, move is equal to our input, okay? And how I'm picturing it is that you're going to have your piece number, you're going to have their coordinates, and then you're going to have a dash, and then you're going to have your final coordinate. So if I want to move to A2 or something, okay? And why I have this dash here is I want to, because in normal chess notation, if you're just moving a piece and not capturing, you would either leave it blank or have a dash or just not include that character or whatever. But if you're capturing, you will put an X in. For now, because it doesn't know what moves are legal, I'm just going to have all of them as dashes. But later, I want to specify if I want to capture a piece or if I just want to move a piece, and that way I can figure out if that move's legal or not. So how can we go about this? Well, what we need is we need to find the piece, of course, and it's kind of given to us. So whatever this piece is here, if it's a pawn or if it's a king or if it's a bishop, we have it right here, that first character, and we have the first part of it in the white or black, right? Because that's the player number. So we can find the first character in this string and add it to the player, right? And so that and add it to the player. And so that way we can have our piece. And why I have the coordinates of where the piece is, because there's at least 2 of most of the pieces, I mean, obviously except the queen or king, but because there's at least 2 pieces for the other pieces, we need to specify which one. Normally, online chess or whatever do this automatically, and they can say, okay, well, which piece can move there, and then it figures it out and automatically does it, without you having to specify which piece it is, except in some more rare scenarios. But for now, because obviously I can't figure out my legal moves, I want to be able to specify its coordinates and then basically pick it up and move it to those coordinates, which should be pretty easy. First things first, we're going to create a list. So we're going to do list of move, and of course our moves are input. So I'm breaking it up. I'm breaking up the string into a list of each of its elements, and that way we can more easily pick out the things we want. Now we have to figure out how to pick out the pieces. And I've come up with this little block of code here. So the piece is going to be player plus list of move 0. So the very first part of the list, which is the piece number. So if it's you want to move your bishop and the player number is, player side is white, then it would look for WB. And then column 1 and rank 1, are basically just the coordinates that you want to look for. See, I have this letter coordinate. I did the letter of L move 1, which is going to be that first coordinate, like the coordinate of where it is, the A or B or C or whatever, that letter of where it is. I plug it into the letter dictionary and it'll give me an output, and set column 1 equal to that. Then we have rank 1, which is basically just the integer of L move 2, which is again the its original coordinates, and this is just going to be the number of the original coordinates, and find the integer of it, because when I type it into my input, it automatically sets it to a string, so I'm just setting it to an integer. And then we are subtracting 1 from it, because it's going to be slightly offset, because if the bottom rank is 1, it's actually going to be 0 on the list. And then column 2 and rank 2 is basically the same concept, just with the coordinates that we want to go to. And from here, it's going to be really simple. And now this is where it actually moves the piece. It's basically finding those original coordinates on the board here, and it's saying, is it equal to piece, or the piece that we figured out up here. And if it is, it's going to set that coordinate to nothing. It's going to set it to a blank space. And then it's going to set the place that you want it to go to the piece. And if it's else, it just says error, could not find piece. So this is really all we need to start creating our chessboard and being able to move pieces. And now with this little loop I set up, we just have board equal to setup board. We print board, and then while true, white moves, prints the board, black moves, and prints the board. And this basically just repeats. So let's test it out. If I were to run this, so as we can see here, we have our chessboard, and we want to move our white piece. So let's just do a basic opening. So we can move our king pawn, which is on e2, to e4. So we could say, okay, well, our pawn from e2, we're going to move it to e4. And it prints down here. See, it made it disappear, and it moved it to its new spot. What if we want to just put an error that we could not find? Well, what if we wanted to say for black, let's say we want to find our pawn on, how about e4, just trying to take the pawn and move it to e2. We'll see up here, it's going to give an error and says could not find the piece. So, but what ends up happening is that it skips to white's turn. And this can be avoided really easily. So if we just go back, let me pause this. Okay, so this can be avoided by creating some sort of loop, and whenever it gets it correct, whenever the piece can be found, it breaks the loop. So what we could do is we could actually just put a while loop up here, if I'm not mistaken, and we could just say while true, and then I can just adjust everything, and then I can just add a break here. So whenever it is true, whenever we find the piece and move the piece, then we break the loop. So let's run this one more time. So we have white, and we can just do, let's just mess it up. We could say pawn from e3 to e4, and again it says error, so let's go again. We could say pawn, I don't know, e4 to e5, and again another error. And let's do an actual move. We can say e2 to e4. Boom. And then black, they could do pawn on e6 and move it to e5. Oh, sorry, on e7 and move that to e5. And then I can move my knight, remember it's notated by n, on g1 and move it to f3. And then, see, black can go on, I don't know, if they want to get their queen out, so they could say queen on a d8 and move it to e7. But the issue here is that there's no parameters, so I could actually just take my pawn, so I could take a pawn on, how about d2, and move it to e8, capturing the king. So, of course, that's not how actual chess works. But this is a good base for my chess game. All I need to do is I need to add parameters, which is going to make it slightly harder. So I'm going to have to brainstorm for a while to figure out how this is going to work. But for now, that's about it. So, peace.